Pascal, you've just announced a new product. Not everyone listening to the podcast will know about it. Do you want to just explain what the product is?
Yeah, it's a new service rather than a new product. It's something that will be enabled in your Nano S Plus, Nano X, and soon Ledger Stacks. And it's a seed recovery product or service, seed recovery service. When you set up your wallet, a Nano, you end up with, in one hand, your Nano with a PIN code, and other hand, you have those 24 words. And those 24 words, then you have to, hide them somewhere. We thought that everything that exists in terms of recovery of the 24 words today is weak. Most people actually are not in self-custody for that reason, and this is why they leave their coins on exchanges, and we know that this is not the right way of doing it. And when they use a non-custodial wallet, usually what happens is those 24 words end up on a piece of paper somewhere, or even worse, in the cloud, or even worse, various ways of keeping the 24 words that are not very satisfactory in terms of recovery. And the thing is, once you have those 24 words, you're solely responsible for your coins and eventually your losses.
All right, cool.
So you're responsible for the coins and your losses. And so going forward, it's not possible to think that hundreds of millions of users are going to onboard self-custody and take care of the 24 words. That's not what's going to happen. Most actually users that talk to us say that they don't trust themselves with the 24 words. So we needed to come up with a service that helps you store the 24 words somewhere, but not the entire 24 words. So we encrypt and shard, and then we store into 3 different locations, and only you can retrieve the 24 words. So that's the service that we're taking to market, and that's created some fun, I guess, on Twitter yesterday and today.
Okay. So I'm going to start with Harry, just because I think, if anything, you're the most neutral. Like, your interpretation, because it's been all over Twitter the last few days. What was your interpretation? Do you have any specific questions for Pascal?
Yeah, so I guess my questions and discomfort is just a function of how does my signing device interact with the software on my computer, and how does the whether it's an upgrade or a change to that package of software, how does that happen, and what does that expose me to?
So first, it's not exactly like that. So you have 3 components. You have the hardware, you have the operating system that runs on the hardware, and then you have the software. Here, this is not a software upgrade. This is an operating system upgrade. The operating system upgrade only happens if you validate the upgrade yourself, meaning that we cannot push any upgrade into your device without your consent. The device works always the same way, which is it's only with user consent, which is PIN and pressing on those 2 buttons, that anything can happen on your device. And so this is really how it works. And so when we offer an upgrade for the device, really the security of your ledger is not really changing, because what you do with the operating system and the device for any action really is to trigger functionalities. I want to sign this, I want to do this, I want to do that. So there is nothing that sort of loses your control. There is a misconception that suddenly something is happening in the device that is not under your control because we're pushing an upgrade or because we are creating a backdoor, etc. But that's not the case. The device always works the same, which is, it's under your control only, and it does things only if you do the PIN code and press the buttons.
And we know, I'm fully aware that Bitcoin maximalists tend to prefer products that are Bitcoin only. But up until this week, I'm also aware that a lot of Bitcoiners are happy with Ledger as a device. They think it was a good device. They think it is a good device. And so I'd be interested, Matt, your perspective now, and any specific questions you have for Pascal.
Well, so you introduced me. I think your audience is very familiar with me because they come on the show a lot. But the potential conflict is that I'm a partner at 1031, the largest Bitcoin-only venture fund in the space. And we're the only outside investors in CoinKite. So that's the actual conflict.
Yeah, okay.
Also, I'm a user of CoinKite products. I have been for many years. I think the big concern here is a concern that many people have had in the space in the past, which is that Ledger is a closed source product. And as a result, because it's a closed source product, you can't actually verify what if the firmware updates that you ship to the device are actually doing what you say they're doing. And I think this scenario, this situation with this particular recover service has highlighted that, because people have concerns that you might ship an update to a Ledger device that is malicious and extracts keys from the device. And we saw today on Twitter, one of your support people basically said as much as that. They said, at the end of the day, the trust trade-off with Ledger is that you have to trust us not to ship a malicious update to your device that steals your Bitcoin.
Yeah, so the tweet that you referred to was, a bad tweet, and we are under a lot of pressure, and the guys that are doing customer success are doing their best to answer all questions, etc. And okay, so there was very poor wording. Actually, we took the tweet away. We said that we took the tweet away, like we're not trying to hide from the mistakes, and then we reformulated the tweet into something that is more accurate to what we actually do. So that tweet was incorrect, and it was an honest mistake from a customer success agent that was trying to do his best to explain how this works. When it comes to open source versus closed source, so first of all, open source is not a panacea in terms of security. I mean, if you give me a Trezor right now, give it to my dungeon, they extract the private keys in 30 seconds.
Yep.
Okay? So open source is not a panacea in terms of security. The reason why some of what we do is closed source is not because of Ledger. It's because, contrary to what Trezor does, and don't want to slam dunk on Trezor because I like these guys.
Oh, no, please do.
Yeah, okay. No, but I think, everybody's trying to do a good job, but they don't use a secure element. They use a chip that you would find in your toaster. And so this is why it's so easy to extract the private keys. And so, of course, all these chips are open source. When we use a secure element, there's part of it that is, closed source, but it comes from the manufacturer of the secure element. If it was just for us, and actually we asked ST Microelectronics many times to open source everything, and they don't want to, but that's got to do with their security features.
Are you guys PCI certified or just FIPS?
That's a great question for Charles and Nicolas.
Okay.
I'm not the
technical
guy of the
So, for
team.
example, what we do is we do have two secure elements, right? But we do have the source code fully open verifiable, right? So you can go and you can review the code and you can build it yourself. So it is possible to make closed devices that have secure elements, that there is an NDA that we have to sign to use that chip, but the code that configures that runs sort of resolves that sort of obscurity. I absolutely agree with you. People don't understand that just being open source just solves all the problems, because it doesn't. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. By the way, I am a fan of the product. I've been dealing with your team for many years. You guys do a lot of pen testing for us. You guys spend like $500,000 breaking our devices. And so, but there is ways of doing this stuff in a way that I believe we can find a better trade-off, and that's why I built my product in the way that we do, because trust, for what it is everything, right? And that's part of the brand, and and I think you guys are taking a pounding on this, because it's amazing to me that people just figured out now that you could do anything and sort of hurt them economically, right, by exposing their seeds or whatever. You're not a malicious actor, like you're a business and you do audits and everything, but it's just surprising that they just figure out now that you could do something to the firmware that they may not like. So you guys can resolve that through audits and other things, and that's the path.
And certification, yeah.
Exactly, right?
And we do, actually, we are I think the only hardware wallet that has been certified by a third party. The Nano S Plus, and Nano X have all been certified by the ANSI. And I'm not talking about the chip, which is certified. I'm talking about the product.
It's the full stack. No, I understand.
Now you can say, okay, I don't trust the ANSI, or I don't trust third party verification, which is fine, but they have access to everything. They actually do a really good job at making sure. And they're, just for everyone to understand, the ANSI is a governmental agency whose job is to make sure that, when you take a cryptographic product to the market, it actually, and for security, actually does what it's supposed to do. And these guys are, hardcore and serious.
I come...
And also, 80% of what we do is open source. And, I think in the end, This is not exactly true. I mean, we're trying to spin this in the way that we say, well, so first of all, like the number of people that are capable of like opening like an open source code of that complexity and really looking into it, maybe you can do it, but like
my users do.
But there are very few people on the planet that can do that. So actually, that doesn't really work for the general audience.
So this
because they cannot do it themselves. And what works though, and especially in security, is time and testing through time. So when you have 6 million devices that have been out there for almost 10 years now, they are not hacked, there is no backdoor, etc. In the end, the proof is a bit in the pudding. And typically, there is a lot of problems right now with this feature, and people are imagining things. But when we're going to release the feature and it's going to be in the market for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and that it will be no hack and no backdoor, this is also how you bring back confidence in the space.
Yeah, so here's the thing. There's a lot to unpack there, right? So first is, I mean, it is absolutely true that most people would never be able to check source code. But that's why we have deterministic builds, right? That means that the code can be reviewed by somebody that can review, that's not part of the company, that can vouch that the code does what it does, and the signatures check, right? So there's no room for anybody to get in there. What else? I mean, and then there's the issue, I guess, like on some
But again, like all of this is because there's an assumption that Ledger suddenly turned rogue and could be a malicious actor.
This happened to Gemalto, right? Gemalto, big French secure chip maker,
Gemalto.
right? They were all full of spooks there, and they were leaking keys and giving everybody backdoors, and it was a disaster, right? It has happened Crypto AG as well. So the idea is not that you guys are bad guys, which I don't believe you are. I am a fan and a friend of Guilherme, your CTO. We've been talking on the back for many years. But the idea here is that we don't have to trust if we use the tools in certain ways, right? So that I can just say, just literally don't trust me as a company, right? That's my goal. I know it's a little different for you guys. You guys are trying to approach a bigger market, right? That has people who are very new to Bitcoin, and you're trying to make it easy. It's an interesting feature, by the way. I just think that if you're going to do something like that, and this is my opinion, there is ways to first, like how you describe this to people, which I think is part of the problem of how this whole Twitter sort of thing happened.
No, but the problem is not the way that you describe it. The problem is, the team that we pushed a release that wasn't supposed to be pushed, and so users discovered the feature with a firmware upgrade, which is unpleasant at best, because then the content to explain what it was not ready. So for a few hours, there was just that push, and people were like, which is what created the FUD actually, because people were like, oh shit,
but there's also
this is coming online. No one told me anything, and so what are these guys doing? The normal way of communication should have been, this is the product, this is how it works, and by the way, we're pushing it next week or something like that, which was the original plan. So there was a fuck up not even in terms of communication, but in terms of sequencing of the release of the product. This is what created the FUD.